What is the biggest, maybe you've already answered it, but I'll give you a chance to elaborate a little bit. What is the biggest problem or challenge facing women in 2019? Like the number one, the top worst thing.
The kind of the stereotype that standing up and finally speaking your mind makes you a bitch. And kind of separating the fact that just not sitting around anymore and just placating and smiling and actually having a voice and standing up for ourselves doesn't make us bitchy. It's us saying no more.
Do you get called a bitch a lot for going? Did you get called a bitch for coming here today?
Luckily not by anybody I know, but I've been really good at kind of weeding those people out. So I'm sure that it could be done.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that women face right now? What's the biggest problem that they have to overcome?
I think it's being in leadership. I think that there's a stigma about strong women, that you either have to be weak to be, a woman that's not a bitch, and if you have any type of drive for leadership, then you're just a bitch. So I think it's a little bit of just equality, that you can be strong and still be compassionate and gracious, but you don't have to be quiet.
Well, to the point.
So how are they not treated equally?
I think it's just systemic. The very idea that they have to be fearful, that they have to be scared, that when they have an opinion, they're immediately believed to maybe just be, stressed or worried, and I just think that the best opinions have come from women.
It's kind of the perception of women is their biggest problem.
Yeah, the perception of women. They should be treated just like I am. When I have something to say, people generally take me seriously. When a woman has something to say, there's questions.
If you were to get number one, what is the worst thing that women have to face or that are challenging them today?
To not be taken seriously.
I've heard that answer a couple times actually already now.
I work in a male-dominated profession. I'm an IT worker, tech worker.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah.
Why do you think, now I know that
I get talked over in meetings all the time. It's just like the way it is. And
Good Old Boys Club?
Yep.
What brings you out here, if there's a big idea, what brings you out here to the Women's March today? What got you off the couch this morning?
State of the country.
The state of the country?
Got to be more liberal, got to be more progressive, got to be for everyone, and not just rich, white, old dudes.
Anything specific, though? It's kind of like really...
It's all. The whole year, the whole 2 years. The whole agenda has been ridiculously, not just conservative, but mean-spirited, racist, every negative thing you can say.
What's the most racist thing it's done so far?
Whatever he says that comes out of his mouth, I mean, every move, is one dick move after the other.
Dick moves all up in here.
No dick move unturned, or what is it? What's the phrase? Wait a minute. Actually, who are you doing this for, by the way?
There it is.
It's for you guys.
Now you got a sign here that says Trump is a liar, a puppet, and a traitor. I don't know. Is that kind of what the Women's March is about, or what does it have to do with the Women's March?
The Women's March brings a lot of different thoughts and positions together.
I've seen that too. Yeah, I got like some global warming stuff, some immigration stuff. So,
and I happen to see this as the most dire situation that is existing in our country today.
That's the biggest problem right now.
I believe so.
Okay.
I didn't spend time serving this country to see it turned over to the Russians.
What is the number one worst thing, the worst problem or challenge that women are facing in 2019?
The number one worst problem that women are facing in 2019.
Well, that's tough. I mean, the whole discrepancy in pay really gets to me, but it's probably not the worst problem. I think that
can be kind of debated too, whether that's actually legitimate, the wage gap anyway.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the numbers. Well, are you aware of how they got those numbers?
No.
So yeah, the kind of the way that they did that is they basically pooled up all of the amounts that men make and then all the amounts that women make, and they just compared them. They didn't look at who's actually working, how many hours, what kind of jobs, different types of positions like that. Because you don't see a lot of women working in oil rigs out in North Dakota, you know what I mean? Whereas you see more of them doing more kind of caretaker jobs, stuff like that. But anyway, aside from maybe the wage gap, what do you think is the biggest problem?
I don't know.
Nothing comes to your mind? Why are we out here?
I'm not a snappy thinker.
Oh,
I
okay.
just show up.
I kind of figured that everyone would be like, they're out here because they got something they want to talk about, you know?
I'm here because I love doing this, and it is important to me. I'm just not the greatest spokesperson. I'm sorry.
Understandable. Well, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great time out here today. So why do you think we don't see more women making their own businesses and becoming CEOs?
I think it's just been a bit of a glass ceiling for a minute, and when you're told that you can't do something or that you're not the same, you believe it. So I think it takes a bit of time to ingrain in young kids that they can do things, and little girls believe that. So when you haven't had, a lot of role models, really, you don't really think that you can do those things.
They're kind of programmed to not even want to try and make their own business. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know if it's on purposeful programming, but they're definitely not inspired before, I'd say, the last couple of years. You kind of were taught that you find a good man and you get knocked up and have a house and then you're successful. But sometimes you want to be a boss and you want to run a business and maybe you want to have babies too.
But I'm here because basically for way too long white men have controlled things and caused too many problems. So we better get out and say something as a bigger group and as often as we possibly can, and bringing out the diversity in this area and pointing out all of the wonderful things that women bring to the plate.
What can a white man like me do to help balance the tipping, scales?
Exactly what you're doing, being here in support and showing up and marching with women, alongside of women, stopping people when they are harassing women, like making sure that women are okay to run at night with headphones, and stopping other men from being aggressors against women.
Why do you think there aren't more women in IT?
I don't know. I don't have a computer science degree. I sort of discovered it. And I have a good affinity. I work mostly on the database side of the house these days. I used to work applications. But I don't know. Maybe they're not encouraged to take those kind of classes.
I hear that one a lot, but
I don't know.
I think, now hear me out on this one.
Okay.
Might be controversial, but I just think women aren't as interested in IT as men are. Do you think there's any merit to that idea? Kind of the same way that men aren't as interested in nursing as women?
I don't know. I know some. I don't really know. It could be just core differences in how we perceive things. But I like it because I never stop learning, ever. Yeah. It's always
That's the best part about that industry, yeah.
So that's my personal thing. So.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Ahoy, matey. Mateys. I was curious about your sign and what your message is out here. I see a Renaissance Fair shirt, so is it just the off season for the Renaissance Festival and you figured you'd come out, or what?
There's no off seasons for Renaissance Fair, man.
Not for the hardcore people.
No. Be a year-round job.
Right. We're actually a new group. This is our coming out day. We decided to come out and support
Welcome.
a good cause. We're the Great Basin Buccaneers.
Great Basin Buccaneers out of Reno?
Out of Reno, aye. And, of course, we support equality in all ways. Historically, pirates, we didn't care if you were a man or a woman, what your color was, what your creed was.
Just take your stuff anyway.
All had a vote. We were the first democracy.
I like that.
Some of the fiercest pirates were women. Consider Grace O'Malley, the pirate queen of Ireland.
Or there is Mistress Cheng was also a real pirate.
Yeah,
she was so powerful the Chinese government paid her to retire.
Oh wow, that's when you know you made it.
Aye.
So historically, women have been kicking ass in piracy and elsewhere. So
is this rally related to the alt-right? Because the leaders have said some anti-Semitic stuff. I don't know if some of not all the organizations, but like the SPLC and Emily's List, they disavowed this march. What's going on with that?
So lately there's been a lot of controversy nationwide over pretty much almost all of the women's marches, at least that I've seen on the news, in regards to like not showing enough diversity in the folks who are putting on the marches. And that includes some folks who apparently have made controversial statements, maybe anti-Semitic or, some pro-racist remarks. There was the same kind of thing last year in regards to folks who were against like trans people, saying that they're not real women.
I remember that. Yeah, I was here last year too. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of controversy surrounding it. I don't think that anyone can get away with calling this women's march an alt-right movement at all. basically everyone out here is anti-Trump and anti-right-wing. You have obviously representatives of different leftist organizations here. So I don't think that this march has anything to do with the right wing whatsoever. I do know that there are a wide range of supporters, including some folks who are maybe more moderate Republicans, but just want to show that they also support women too.
Like maybe there could be some alt-right people here?
I have not seen one evidence or any evidence
Okay. All right,
that
cool.
would show that.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that sexist remark you made about men on drill rigs. I'm a geologist and I've worked on drill rigs. Not oil rigs, but drill rigs mining for gold. So, think about that.
Well,
Women can do anything.
I agree. And I encourage women to go on drill rigs and make that much money because it is big money. But let me ask you this. In trying to continue an open conversation with that you call that sexist.
No, just saying that men are working on
all I
drill
look
rigs.
at is statistics.
Uh-huh.
And I think to call something sexist, you gotta have a little bit of like an intent behind the statement. I didn't intend to say anything bad of a woman. I was just
I
kind
just
of
wanted to say something.
reciting statistics. That yeah. Do you think statistics could be sexist?
I don't know.
No. Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Do you think it's going to work the same way? Do you think women and men kind of have the same interests where the women could work 80 hours a week in high stress situations all the time and be okay with coming home and not seeing the kids?
I think again, it's really dependent on the couple or the individual. Like very black and white social norms and gender roles, I think are dangerous. But I think to an extent, typically, sure, women are the nurturers and the one that want to be with the baby. But like I said, some stay-at-home dads want to do that, and women want to work 90 hours a week. So, for me, I don't make draw a stark line. I think it's.
I don't think there's a line either. Yeah, I think there's going to be some women who want to do CEO stuff, but in general, though, do you think there's a tendency for men to be interested in certain things and women to be interested in certain things?
Just in my experience, and maybe other people have different beliefs, absolutely. I think it's not even just gender roles, but sex roles. And again, however you identify in that sex role. But women typically do want to have the baby and, be a little more nurturing and stay at home. But I have one friend who never wants babies, and she runs a badass business, and her boyfriend wants to have babies. So, no, I do think innately we're kind of born with tendencies, but...
Biology.
Totally. And even, I guess, if you are choosing to identify as a woman and you were born a man, I think that it really just comes down to what you identify with. So I do think that there's some stereotypes that are kind of true, and I don't know, I just think that the idea of having the possibility and the chance for both should be presented to both sexes or all sexes. So
I agree 100%. So anything else you want to say?
anything else?
Said everything.
Honestly, we just want Donald Trump to get the F out of here, dude. It's so embarrassing.
What's the worst thing about Donald Trump? What's the worst thing he's done?
The things he says is just ridiculous.
He didn't help Macaulay Culkin in the elevator in Home Alone either. He didn't even
That is the worst thing. I agree. That is the worst thing.
help a little boy find his mom. You're a piece of shit.
The two questions I've been asking everyone is what brings you out, and then what you think is the number one challenge facing the number one problem that women have to face today in 2019.
Well, from observing, obviously I'm not a woman, but observation.
I didn't want to assume.
Of course. But through observation, I would say that probably it's still equality in the workplace, I'd say. I mean, if you go down the street, you go to a restaurant, you don't see too much blatant, overt sexism, between like a man and a woman. But I'd still say that, like, in the workplace, you have disparity between wages. I mean, the place that I work now, I know a couple of folks who are women who started the same time I did, who are as qualified as I am, but they still earn, 75 cents less an hour than I do. And that's kind of a problem. I don't know what the excuse from the bosses are for that, but that's a problem.
Usually they'll say, work experience or your ability to negotiate, things like that.
Sure, but
do you think there's any merit to those arguments? Like women aren't as likely to negotiate. They're not as interested in the higher earning jobs as men, stuff like that. Like you don't see a lot of women on oil derricks, you know what I mean?
Sure, but I think that comes from years and years of, again, a male-dominated workforce, right, where the woman was expected to stay home, raise a family, cook and clean, and the men go out and, work and bring home the bacon, so to speak. So I think that comes from years of that, women.
We should be encouraging women to go work on oil derricks, is what you're saying.
Sure,
Or
yeah.
get into those other, like plumbing and, all that kind of stuff that they don't traditionally want to do.
I mean, I would support having women go out and do what they want to do. If they want to get a career.
But what if that creates inequality, though?
I don't see how it would create inequality.
For example, like the Nordic model, they've done more legislatively to equalize the genders in their countries, but you still see like 20-to-1 ratio of women to men nurses, because the women like to choose to do those things. They don't like to choose to do, walking around in the frigid ice tundra, walking on oil derricks, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
yeah.
that kind of creates, and that statistic itself has been used as a reason for inequality. But I think if we give people the freedom to choose, I don't think we can have like an equality of outcome. Does that make any sense? Is that kind of?
I mean, that makes sense, and I could see that. But again, if it's their choice, it's their choice, and that's a little bit more important than a superimposed forced equality, which I think
I agree 100%.
Would be a failure on our part.
Can I ask you about your sign? What does the patriarchy mean to you?
Patriarchy means sex inequality. It's not an anti-men sentiment. It's an equality effort between genders.
What's the biggest inequality right now, do you think, between genders?
I would say treatment. Well, I don't know what's the biggest one, but a big one is gender gap, for example. It's a good example.
Gender gap?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, you mean like the wage gap?
Yeah, like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wage gap.
And what is the wage gap?
I think it's $0.7 to $1 for colored women. No, for white women, and I think it's even like 0.6 for colored women. I'm not sure about the second one.
Well, not necessarily specific numbers. Not everyone's going to know the numbers, but I mean, like in general, what does that represent? Is it the total number of money that the women make versus the total number of money that men make, or how do they get those numbers?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like women that do the same job, like how much do they get paid versus like if a man does the exact same job, how much does he make? Yeah.
So I think actually that 77 cents statistic, not to get all statisticky on you or anything like that, but so what they did with that is they took all the money that women make and then all the money that men make and they just compared it. They didn't really take into account like the different choices that men and women make versus different careers and stuff like that. Like, 'cause you think women are interested in different things than men, right?
Well, I think that also there's a lot of factors that lead to that difference in money. It's not only the decisions that they make, it's like the opportunities that they're offered and how they're treated in the world.
What else could we do to fix that, do you think?
I think we keep speaking up, we keep asking for what we need, and we keep elucidating what's happening, and then we keep it in the conversation, and then at some point this is how it reaches the government and the people that make the decisions, and that's how you push for change that the society wants.
All right, well, anything else you want to say?
No, that's good.
All right, thank you for your time. Have a good time out here. All right, so yeah, we want to fix the fake inequality by running to the government, which is run by men, and then simultaneously blaming them for the patriarchy, and then tell them to make everything equal for us. Make sense? So we're about 25 minutes outside Reno, and that's some time to think about, the answers and the conversations that we had at the march. I think once women can get to the point to where they realize that they are equal, if not considered superior in many ways, especially to me as a white man. Women are far superior to me. I'm just a white man. If they can get to that point where they realize that, maybe we can stop having marches and we can reach, this level of serenity. They can be at peace in their head and their minds, and we can put all this madness to rest and stop screaming and yelling and marching and for no reason at all. I mean, I consider that no reason. Other people's perception of you is the biggest problem in your life. You got a great life. This is Jeremy from the Weekly Narrative, the Women's March, 2nd annual Reno Women's March. That's the 3rd annual Women's March overall. And we'll be back next year if they want to do it again. I don't know what else they're going to have to complain about, but we'll be back.